Hello. Just getting started up for this morning's e-file Chronicles live on the Nails Magazine Facebook page. And I'm just going to give people a minute or two to make it into the room before we get started. If you are a nail professional, please feel free to share the Facebook Live session so that as many nail people as possible are able to catch it. Hi Stephanie, hi Martinez. Thanks so much to everyone coming in this morning. I'm really excited to give the e-file another go. As you can see, for today we needed some practice nails with enhancement product on it, whether you prefer to use liquid and powder or gel, and then some nails that have been polished with gel polish. And then once you're finished with the gel polish, a thin layer of regular polish on top. I know that sounds weird, but it's going to make sense when we get into it. Hi Jenny, hi Nels. Pretty please forgive me if I say anyone's name wrong. Hi, Lynn. I'm going to try to keep up with everyone's messages today and answer your questions as you ask them if I can. If I miss any of your questions during the live broadcast, I will answer all of them in the video comments. Wow, Olga, thanks for joining from the Netherlands. Hey Heather, thanks. Hello from Belgium. How many of you are going to practice along with me? Alright, looks like we've got quite a few people in. Hey, from New Zealand! Hello, Canada! Wow, this is a really fun international group. Are you guys ready to play? Let's have at it. We've waited a couple of minutes, so we should have the ones that were coming in at 10 in and ready to go. Grab your e-file, and remember that we want to keep our e-file when we're not using it with the collet in it. So I'm going to twist so that I can pull that out. By keeping that inside there, it keeps dust from going down in the e-file while it's being stored. And we definitely want to protect our e-file from dust at all times. We've taken that out. I'm going to set it to the side so that I don't lose it. And how many of you have this really cool easy off bit? And do you absolutely love how easy it is to actually get the sanding bands on and off? I find that I can put the sanding bands on without having to say bad words, trying to get it to go, and that they actually come off when I want them to come off. Another reminder, you don't want to put the bit all the way down into the e-file. You actually want it to have a little bit of space for when it's spinning. I find if I'm holding the e-file like this when I put the bit in, it's difficult to hold it up and get the piece twisted with the same hand. So I tend to, when I put the bits in, go ahead and hold the e-file to the side, get the bit about where I want it, and then I can use both hands to lock the bit into place. So keep in mind that it's really important to have that little bit of space. Let's start out playing on enhancement. Something that happens when you hand file the enhancement is you can hand file in a certain order to make sure that you keep your arch. The trick with the e-file is that you're actually wanting to go from side to side. So it's going to be a little trickier to make sure that we maintain some arch in place on that nail. And this is where that soft touch that we talked about last time is going to come in really handy. How many of you practiced on eggs and pencils this week? I have gone through quite a few eggs myself, and it has definitely been an interesting learning experience. So what we're going to do is kick the e-file on and then work from side to side, just smoothing out the surface of that nail. With e-filing, it's really important that you've done the sculpting with your brush so that it's really easy to come in and just finish it up with the e-file. Something else that's going to be important is going to be our angle, because if we angle this too far up, we're going to cut into that natural nail that's right at the back, or we could potentially be cutting into the proximal fold right there. So while we want to have the e-file at a little bit of an angle because we want to be able to keep that arch, we don't want to have it at an extreme angle. So keep in mind that your e-file still needs to be pretty flush. And when we're working in this back third of the nail, we're going to use that front third of the bit. And then we're working on the middle of the nail, we'll use the middle of the bit. Then when we're working on the edge of the nail, we'll use this back edge of the bit. So what's going to be important is that angle. Let's make sure that we're not angling too far back when we're in zone 3, that we've got just a slight angle, but we're not cutting into it with that sharp edge. And then we're in the middle, we're kind of going more at a flat, but making sure that we're not using a lot of pressure so that we keep the arch. And then when we're at the end, tipping it back so that we get that angle that we want for the front, but yet we're using that back edge of the bit. Let's give it a go and see how it works out. So you want to have 2 or 3 different practice nails to practice on, so that if you work a little faster than I do, you can go ahead and pick up your next nail and practice. I'm going to, a lot of you asked about RPMs last time, and on the Manipro, which is what I happen to use, the center of the dial is about 1500 RPMs. So I'm going to turn it to about the center. Remember that you're just letting it rest in your hand. You're not really coming in and pressing really hard. Because if we get really aggressive, we're going to leave lines in the nail. And let's just do a run across the back and have it really up at an angle so we can see what happens. So if I wipe that off and turn that to the side, can you see the groove that's in there now? So how easy would it be to cut right into someone's nail if we're not paying attention to the angle? So it's going to be really important that you're holding that file at an angle so that you can create your arch. See how that's going to allow me to create the arch, but that it's not at an extreme angle that cuts into the nail. So just slightly back to follow the arch. And we're going to work from side to side. And you can see on the nail the much broader swipe that it takes when you've got it laid back. And this is where it will come in handy to do some practice nails before you work on a person and really pay attention to your swipes. You could even color this nail with a Sharpie if you wanted to better be able to see where your strokes have been. Now I'm getting towards the middle, so I'd like to start using the middle part of the bit. Again, going from one side to the other, just letting the e-file rest in my hand, not really putting any pressure on it, just letting it put its own weight for the pressure. See how we're able to keep the arch that we sculpted in with the brush by using that soft, gentle touch. Now that I'm getting out towards that end third of the nail, let's angle the brush or the e-file back a little bit so that we're using this back part of the sanding band, but also so that we're keeping that angle of our arch while we're working. I can definitely tell that my strokes are a lot more confident since I was very first trying it in the e-file class. And if any of you caught me doing the videos in the e-file class, you'll remember that it was very much like teet, 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 freaking out about touching it. And this is where the egg practice really came in handy, because I feel more like I understand the e-file and how to hold it softly. And see how we're able to keep that arch just using those soft, gentle strokes. And for those of you that are not familiar with hand filing, you'll find that knowing how to hand file really well can actually help you visualize the finished nail when you're sculpting it with your brush. If any of you would like me to do a Facebook Live on the nails page using hand filing to finish, definitely leave a comment down below so that I know you're interested in something like that. Let's set that nail to the side. And let's grab one of the nails that we have applied a gel polish and then put a regular polish right on top of it. So I just did 2 color coats and top coat of a gel polish, cured them, cleaned it off with the alcohol, and then went on with a regular polish and just polished a super thin layer of regular polish right on top of here. If you are following along with me, I'll give you a second to switch over to your other tip if you happen to be using a trainer hand or anything like that. And I'm going to check over in the comments real quick to see if you guys have any questions. Hi from Chicago. Thanks for coming, Mary. Hi, Joy. Hi, Natalie. Hello from Idaho. Cool. All right, any questions? For those of you following along, did that first part make sense about using the angle of your e-file so that we use the entire sanding band? So can you see how the entire sanding band, you can see that it's been used? And this is the same concept when you're using a hand file, how you want to use the entire file so that you're not just wearing out one spot. The sanding band is the same way. It's going to be more effective if you're using the whole thing versus completely wearing it down just in one spot. Andrea, I put regular polish over the gel polish because what we're about to do is file off the regular polish and attempt not to hit the gel polish to see if we can be really gentle and just remove a small amount. Hello from South Dakota. Hello from Finland. Hi from Belgium. Thank you, Olga. All right, it looks like we're good with questions for the moment, so I'm going to kick this back on. And for those of you just making it in, I'm just going halfway on the dial, and this is a Manipro. So on this specific file, halfway on the dial is about 1500 RPMs. Set that back over. And let's grab our nail with the gel polish. So this is similar to when we filed the crayon off the eggs. And I hope you had as much fun filing eggs with crayon as I did. With this, we're going to try to file off the regular polish and see if we can do it without scratching into the gel polish. We're going to start at where the proximal fold would be so that we can kind of pretend that we're doing an enhancement and get the feel for the going side to side with our swipes. And just like the egg, your practice nail should have a curve in it so that you're practicing filing across those curves. Hi, Marianne. Remember, we're going to angle back so that we get that angle that we would normally have going up to our arch, but we're not going to angle too far back because we don't want to cut in. So using that front part of the bit. Ooh, this is really challenging. You can see I've already swiped into the gel polish. So this is definitely going to be something that I continue to practice so that I can work on the angle of my bit. Oops. It's supposed to be going all the way across. Cutting through the gel polish made me nervous, and now I'm messing up because I'm going too slow. So keep in mind, if you kind of start to lag in one spot because you're freaking out, that's going to mess things up. So, okay, we messed up at the back. Let's try not to mess up out towards the front. Swipe it all the way across. And it looks like I'm having the hardest time getting over to this side from the middle. So that's definitely something I'm going to be conscious of needing to practice, and I'll definitely be making up some more tips with the polish and the gel polish. Those of you that are trying this at home, how's it going for you? Hello from Bulgaria. Thanks for coming. Are you guys managing to file off just your polish, or are you getting into the gel polish like I am? Maybe some of the e-file experts can leave us some tips and tricks in the comments for getting better control. I seem to do better out at the end than at the back. And at the back is definitely where we want to be really careful because we don't want to be getting into the proximal nail fold. Now I'm freaking out because I did so poorly on that. I kind of want to go back and play on an enhancement. So let's switch back to the enhancement and play a little bit and build our confidence back up. And then there's another tip with some polish and gel polish that we'll go to after we try it this way. We want to remember to keep our arch in there. So just slightly angled back, going from one side to the other. Making sure your swipes look nice and wide so that you know you are not digging into the nail. This is definitely easier. Now I'm using the center of the bit because I'm working in the center of the nail. And then the edge of the bit at the back. Okay, did you hear where it kind of it grinded in a little bit? I accidentally put some pressure onto the E-file. So make sure that you're listening to your E-file. And when it gives you that louder grinding noise, it's giving you an indication that you have put some pressure on the E-file and you're digging into it a little too much. And if we look down here, you can see where I dug into it just a little bit with the E-file. And if I were actually doing a client in the salon, I'd have to go back in and fix that, which is time consuming. And if you're using the E-file to save time, you definitely don't want to make more work for yourself. Hello, South Africa. Now I'm trying to gently fix that on the off chance that it is fixable with the file and I wouldn't have to add product. And it looks like we got her done. Yay. So remembering to just let the E-file use its own weight is really hard. And keep reminding yourself to just let it float across the nail. I had a tendency when I got a little nervous at the end to really grip onto it. And so kind of keep an eye on your fingers. If you're gripping in, relax. It's just to balance the E-file, not to clench it. Let's come back and try the polish over gel polish again. I'm a little nervous about this one. How about you? Great question, Marianne. To get to the sidewalls when there is skin there are actually other bits. And let me kick this off and I'll show you some of them. So some of the ones that I have at the moment would be something like this, so that you can get in there a little easier. There are also something like this that kind of has that more rounded edge versus that more squared off edge. There are some from other companies that have different finishes up at the ends here that kind of taper more down for getting into that skin. And I would be happy to get more into bits and different types of bits for more advanced usage. If you guys would be interested in that, just leave a comment down below so that I know that bits are something you would like to learn more about, so we know what to use and when. Also, if you guys would be interested in practicing on real people or nails with skin, like maybe I could bring Rosie in so that she had some skin here, and learning how to file around those edges and still not touch the natural nail or the skin, leave that in the comments and I would be happy to plan that. Let's kick this guy back on again. For those of you just coming in, I'm going to spin it to about the halfway point, which is 1500 RPMs on the Manipro. And remember, just let the weight of the E-file do the work for you. So I'm just lightly balancing it. And let's see if we can go side to side without scratching up all the nail polish that we've got on top of our gel polish. I think I'm going to try, because when I am trying to go from one side to the other, I seem to keep getting caught right here on that curve. So I think I'm going to see if for me it's a little easier to go half. Nope. I'm still struggling with that other side. So it looks like that would be a great thing for me to learn in a class. is to ask about how to get over to that side without getting stuck on this hump. I think I will be contacting someone about a private class, and then maybe we can Facebook Live from the class so that you guys can get that trick for how to avoid getting stuck on this hump as well. For those of you that are trying this at home, what is tripping you up and making it tricky when you're trying to file that polish off the gel polish? Oh, here we go. Now it's working much better. So part of it is that I wasn't turning the finger. I was turning the finger to work on this side, but I wasn't turning the finger enough to work on that side. And remember when we talked about the egg, it was important to move it around so that we could get to the curves. And I wasn't moving it around to get to the curves. So that's definitely really helpful to remember that we need to move it around to get to the curves. And you could hear on one part that it started to get a little louder because it was digging in just a little bit because I was freaking out that it was filing through and I gripped the e-file. Well, I think the second time was a little better than the first time in some aspects and a little worse than the first time in others. What do you think? Set those over. I'm going to check if you guys have questions. Kara, for the direction that the tool spins, it does make a difference for what hand you have, if you're right-handed or left-handed. And if, oh, okay, great suggestion. So Kara has a great suggestion for us on controlling the e-file. So she suggests changing the angle on how we hold the finger to be sure we don't file in the same place. So we would definitely want to make sure that we're changing that angle of the finger. Rebecca, I'm filing regular polish off the top of gel polish to learn how to control the e-file so that I'm not digging into the natural nail or digging into the enhancement too far when I actually start to work on people. Cool, Marianne. I will definitely jot down a note to schedule an e-file session for you guys doing a real person. I think I might do Rosie and then do a real person in the second half of that session so that I can get a little bit of confidence before I file on a person. Hello, Mexico. Okay, I see the requests for bit information, so I will definitely plan on that. Cameo, I would be happy to do a private class with you when I'm in Grand Island for the master classes if you want to private message me. Huka, I was absolutely terrified of e-files as well. You definitely can give them a try. Watch the e-file Chronicles video from last week. It's on my YouTube under FingerNailFixer, and you'll see practicing on eggs and pencils, which really will be helpful, I think. Do you have any other questions for me? Oh, a tip from Amanda. You will be able to smell when you hit the natural nail. So we definitely want to make sure we're paying attention not only to the sound, we also want to pay attention to the smell. Thank you so much for that tip. All right, let's play on our nail with the enhancement again, shall we? I definitely will be making up some more tips with gel polish and polish and practicing on those, because that was an absolute disaster. I definitely need more work with controlling the angle of the e-file as well as the pressure. If any of you have suggestions for people to contact about e-file classes, definitely leave those for me in the comments. Let's kick the e-file back on. Again, I've gone halfway on the dial, which is 1500 RPM if you're using a Manipro. And let's just go over a few of the things that absolutely can go wrong so that we're more confident about what not to do. One of those things is definitely bringing it up at too much of an angle. So if we've got too much of an angle near that proximal fold, you can hear it and you can also see it. See that little groove that we've cut in? Another thing is using too much pressure. So let's say we push on the E-file. Hear that difference and see how much that carved out just by using pressure instead of letting the E-file balance itself. So we've got a pretty wide swath, and you definitely don't want to see swipes that wide because the nail, for one thing, shouldn't be that flat. Soft, gentle. Ah! Now I'm gripping it hard again. So keep in mind, just let the weight of the E-file, now I'm gripping it. Soft, soft, soft. This is where you have to tell yourself, relax. Relax your hand, relax your hand. It's not just your client that has to relax the hand. Alright, relax the hand. There we go. Ah! It's really easy to freak yourself out. And this is where your practice on tips and eggs and pencils are definitely going to come in, because freaking yourself out is where you start making mistakes, and that's when I start hitting the edge, or that's when I start really gripping the E-file and digging in because I'm freaking out. So to help give ourselves some confidence, let's definitely practice on some more eggs, as well as do some more practice nails with gel polish and polish. Do you have any questions before I let you go today? Oh, great tip, Amanda. Amanda says when taking polish off, we want to make sure we're using a metal tip versus the sanding band. So let's give that a go. Get that so that we can pull this off. Stick one of our metal bits in. Lock it up. Kick it on. I'm still really chicken of the metal bits, so I'm glad that you mentioned that tip, Amanda. Thank you so much. Now let's try the same thing. Oh, yes! That's a huge help. So it looks like I need to dig out my information on the bits, as well as do some more research to understand best when to use what bit. Using the metal bit to take that polish off is making a huge, huge difference. It's a lot easier to control it and just gently take that pink off the spots where I still have pink. Ah, I got freaked out. Oh, that's super helpful. So I think what we'll do is, let's throw some polish on another tip. Actually, let's just throw some polish back on top of one of these. I'll put polish underneath to make it black again. And then grab nail polish to put polish on top. And we'll let that dry for a couple minutes so that we can file it. While that dries, let's have a go with one of these guys. And as you can see, this one has kind of a rounded end at the top. So this is who we would use around the edges. Kick this back on. And this is where you would need to be really careful of your angle and your pressure, because there would be skin here. So I'm really going to listen to make sure that I'm not going too hard. I'm really going to watch the angle to make sure that it's not digging in. So if we look at this from the side, I'm not getting any little grooves from where I dig in. If I were to dig in with it a little bit, see how it got a little dip in there? So let's run along the side really, really gently. And you can see you can come out a little bit from the side so that then we're able to take that barrel bit and just going from one side to the other. Alyssa, I'm not sure at the moment which bit to use on hard gels versus liquid and powder. So I will definitely do some research on that and then do a live video on bits. It looks like we have some advice from Dusty. She said diamond bits are great and gentle when getting close to the sidewalls or skin. Perfect. So I'm struggling with this side versus the other side. So I'm gonna have to look up in my notes and practice getting on this side versus this side. This side was much easier because it's going down. This side's a little trickier. I'm gonna flip directions. Let's see how that goes. There we go. For those of you that are more experienced at e-files, what I did is flip it from forward to reverse. Is that the easiest way to make it easier to go down the other side, or do you have other tricks? Dusty says that Erica has great bits for hard gels. Krista, to disinfect the bits, you can use the same thing that you use for your metal implements. So I use either the Barbicide, or you can use the, I think it's called Let's Touch. I can never remember if it's Let's Touch or Let's Dance or which it is. They always know at the distributor which one I'm looking for. Any other suggestions from you regular e-file users on a good disinfectant? You want to make sure that you are scrubbing them with soap and water and a manicure brush before you disinfect them to get everything out, otherwise you'll contaminate your disinfectant. Lenora suggests investing in safety bits for working near the skin. Cameo, it's not that it's any better than hand filing, it's just that there are two different options for what your personal preference is. Thanks so much for the information, Dusty. Okay, Diana's suggestion for getting on the other side is to tilt the nail to the opposite side and start at the top and go down. So let's kick it back off and put the e-file back on forward. And Diana, do you mean tilting it this way? Or how are you angling it? Let's try this. This. Oh, maybe pull the skin back and go this way? I could see where you could tilt it this way and use this finger to pull that skin down and get in there like that. Is that what you mean, Diana? The first way. This way? So like turn them sideways like this. Okay, so Diana actually turns the finger sideways to go down from the top. That's pretty tricky for me. So definitely play around with finger angles, and this is where a practice hand would come in handy. So definitely next time I'll bring in my nail trainer hand to play on. I think that's gonna do it for me today. Oh wait, I almost forgot about this guy. Let's see if it's dry enough. Thank goodness for Vinylux that dries crazy quick so we can play right now. Slide our bit in. Alright, let's give this another go and see if I can do it without demolishing the gel polish underneath. Oh yes, it's much easier with the metal bit. So if you're going to practice filing the polish off the gel polish, it's much easier to do with the metal bit versus the sanding band. I've just kind of been sticking to the sanding band as a go-to because it scares me less than the metal bits. So it looks like I'm going to have to get over that fear of the metal bits and start practicing with them as well. I would love to see pictures of your eggs or of your practice nails with the polish and gel polish from today. Feel free to leave those in the comments. And if you missed the video last week where we practiced with eggs and pencils to learn how to start getting control of the e-file, definitely check that out on YouTube under FingerNailFixer as well. I will answer any questions left over in the comments. I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much for joining me in this latest edition of e-file Chronicles, and I will see you back in a few weeks where we will work on an actual practice hand so that we have a practice finger and a person, as well as looking into doing a series just on the bits. Thanks so much. Catch you later. Bye.